Blamestorming: Why Conversations Go Wrong and How to Fix Them, by Rob Kendall. Narrated by Greg Tremblay. Chapter 1. Be Curious. Why you should listen to Blamestorming, how it works, and first steps to better conversations. Our lives are conducted through conversations of one kind or another, in person and in groups, in formal and less formal situations, on the phone or by email. It's something we just do, most of the time without even thinking about it. We take our ability to converse for granted, and when something goes wrong, we tend to pick ourselves up and start over. Usually without asking ourselves why, or realizing that there are things we could have done to avoid the conversation going off track in the first place. Generally, learning to talk to other people goes hand in hand with learning to speak. We learn through the example of others, by copying. It just happens, more or less. When we communicate well, the day-to-day things flow more smoothly and far more pleasantly. When we don't, the effects can be catastrophic. But far from simply being something we started doing way back before we can remember and accepting our relative skill, or lack of skill as a given, conversation is something we can learn to do better and even excel in. The fact is, conversations get tangled up all the time. What you'd thought would be a straightforward chat with your partner turns into a flaming row. Your teenage daughter reacts to a well-intended comment and storms out. Your work meeting's fast feeling as if it's a waste of time because no one's listening. You prepare what you want to say in a tricky conversation and end up not saying what you'd meant to. You initiate a difficult conversation with a colleague and inadvertently put him or her on the defensive. A lot of the time, you find yourself wondering what went wrong, but you can't stop repeating the process again and again. Tricky situations. Blamestorming focuses on 4 fundamental situations. 1. The tangle, where crossed wires lead to uncertainty and confusion, uncoordinated action, and frustrated expectations. How often do you shake your head in bewilderment and wonder how on earth a mix-up occurred? We'll explore how adapting your style of communication, setting the context, and checking for clarity can help prevent misunderstanding and confusion. 2. The big argument, where a convivial start has spiraled out of control and into a bitter row with a partner, a family member, a work colleague, a neighbor, or anyone else you'd had no intention of falling out with. Throughout the book, we'll examine why conversations escalate into arguments, why the subtext of the argument can be more important than the content, and how you can keep things at ground level. 3. The bad place, where the conversation you were having with someone has gone horribly wrong and you're in the mire, or where you simply feel disconnected and fed up with someone and are left wondering how you're going to address the issue or recover the situation. Getting into the bad place from time to time is part and parcel of any relationship. But you'd probably like to get into it far less often and, when you do, be there for less time. Blamestorming will show you how. 4. The lockdown, where feelings and thoughts are internalized or withheld and negative conclusions are drawn, leading to an implosion rather than to the explosion of the big argument. If someone's in the lockdown, they'll withdraw and won't want to talk, even though it's obvious they're deeply upset. This book offers ways to restore communication and bring your relationship back on an even keel. Through a series of accessible and easy-to-follow techniques, Blamestorming will help you to avoid the pitfalls that sabotage conversations even when they've been started with the best of intentions. It shows you how your survival instincts often take over and derail your conversations at the worst possible moments. It reveals the warning signs that indicate when a conversation is beginning to go wrong before it's too late to turn back, and, if it already has, this book shows you how to extricate yourself with the relationship intact. Above all, Blamestorming provides the insight and skills for consistently effective and rewarding interactions with others, and greater confidence that your conversations will go where and how you want them to. What do I mean by conversation? Sandwiched somewhere between convent and convoluted, a conversation is described by the Oxford English Dictionary as a talk, especially an informal one, between two or more people in which news and ideas are exchanged. What do we mean by talk? Before the telephone came along, it meant two people communicating within shouting distance of each other. But Alexander Graham Bell changed all that. In the past 20 years, the world has turned on its head again. We've now got more to consider. What about chatting online, and emailing, and texting? Are they talk? Where do we draw the line? I'd argue that conversation is no longer limited just to the spoken word. When I use online chat to keep in touch with my teenage children, I feel as though I'm having a conversation with them, and we happily exchange news and trivia together. That leaves texting and emailing. For the purposes of Blamestorming, I'm treating them as conversations too, so long as they're two-way. Our interactions may be good or bad, inspiring or depressing. Occasionally we may have an amazing dialogue at work. But more often than not, conversations involve people talking over one another, trampling on each other's sentences, or interjecting when the speaker is in mid-breath. Kitchen table discussions can be sublimely enjoyable, but can become tetchy all too easily, getting stuck in a depressingly familiar cycle. Conversations with our friends can be deeply fulfilling and enriching, but can also slide into misunderstanding and estrangement, leaving us confused about where it all went wrong. In this book, I'll address how to have more conversations that are uplifting and fewer that are disheartening. The truth is, some conversations work out and others don't, but there's a lot you can do to ensure that more of yours do. Most of us spend a staggering proportion of our waking life having conversations of one kind or another. For teachers, people in customer-facing roles or managers of teams, more than 75% of the average day can involve interacting with others, whether face-to-face, via phone, email, or online. Conversations are central to our lives, yet when I ask teenagers how much time they spend at school studying the skills necessary for successful conversation, I'm met with blank looks. It's an unacknowledged issue. People may be particularly adept in their subject areas, but the progress of so many talented and intelligent individuals is constrained because their skills in conversation have never advanced from being merely functional to being expert. How the book works. Each chapter in Blamestorming is short and self-contained, focusing on a specific topic with clear steps for action and a key lesson. I'd recommend listening to the whole book and then returning to the chapters that you feel are most useful for you. To make it easier for you to navigate your way through the different types of conversation, Blamestorming includes a cast of characters in a variety of situations in which they experience conversations that go wrong. In each case, I explain how they could change the way they speak and listen in order to achieve a positive outcome. Beth and Dan are both aged 27. Dan is assistant manager of a retail store, and Beth is a teacher at the local primary school. She's applying for jobs as a deputy head, which involves a demanding interview process. Beth and Dan find that trivial conversations can quickly escalate into full-blown arguments. Laura and Ethan. Laura, 33, is married to Ethan, 32, and is full-time mother to Jack, 7, and Anna, 5. Ethan is Dan's elder brother and a bit of a hot shot in the city, working for a bank based in London and New York. Ethan and Laura have different styles of communication, which often leads to misunderstandings and disagreements. Ravi and Mia. Mia, 36, is a social worker, married to Ravi, 38, who's an IT manager. Their children are Yash, 13, Ria, 12, and Jay, 10, all of whom present their own challenges when it comes to communication. Mia is an old friend of Laura's. They used to be inseparable, but now see each other less often, which puts a strain on their friendship. Laura would like to talk with Mia about this, but fears for their relationship. Diane, 44, is head teacher of a primary school and Beth's boss. As a single parent, she juggles the pressures of her job with taking care of her children.